There's growing clinical evidence that persistent criminals are different from other law-abiding people. It may be a set of biological factors that tilts them towards a life of crime. And who knows, the science of biology may bring us the hope of some cure for the disease of crime itself.
There has been a biological revolution in terms of how we understand crime. And I think one of the implications of biological research is that we will increasingly view criminal behavior as a disorder.
The search to understand the roots of criminal behavior has usually focused on the social causes of crime. Poverty and deprivation all play their part. But what the social scientists overlook is the role of the body's biology, especially abnormalities of brain function. This could be the result of accidents or social factors, difficulties at birth, taking drugs, drinking alcohol. Whatever the cause, it results in a brain which many scientists are convinced makes the criminal different from the rest of us. The new discoveries in the exploration of the brain will fundamentally challenge our concept of the very nature of guilt and punishment. In the light of this new science, we can trace the pathway to crime of two adult offenders. Frank is a career criminal. Tony has spent most of his adult life in jail. Are they both just plain bad, or is there evidence that they are the prisoners of their abnormal brains?
There has to be something wrong, or else I wouldn't have wasted half my life in prison.
Most of us have broken the law as children. Few make a habit of it. Still fewer continue into adult offending. Studies consistently show a tiny handful of children who go on to a career of adult crime.
It is true to say that there are a dangerous few, that there are only a tiny fraction of the total population who commit most of the misery. They commit most of the crimes.
Researchers now believe that we can identify the dangerous few long before they ruin their own and other lives by tests that show how the brain is working. Even more dramatic is the claim that treatment can save children at risk of a criminal career. So who are the dangerous few? Cody was diagnosed at the age of 4 as suffering from attention deficit and conduct disorder. For 20 years, the Satterfield research team have carried out scrupulously controlled scientific studies of children like Cody. They reveal a consistent abnormality in the electrical activity of the brain. 150 of the children studied are now adults.
I'm sorry you missed out this time because I just got Connect 4, but I'm glad that you're playing by the rules. That's terrific. Let's try it again. Attention deficit disorder children who also have conduct disorder were followed by us in a long-term follow-up study, and half of them had been arrested for felony crimes by the time they reached 18, actually before they were 18. So the combination of attention deficit and conduct disorder is highly predictive of trouble with the law later on in life.
Lauren was diagnosed with these disorders when she was 4. Her parents were warned that they signaled serious trouble ahead.
Lauren, if untreated, if we didn't intervene in her behavior, if we didn't do a hands-on action with her, she would be probably a 12-year-old runaway who was promiscuous in sex and probably, in jail at some point, before she was 20.
Lauren is now 8. So what is it that puts children at risk of developing adult criminal behavior? They seem to lack normal feelings and emotions. Lauren's symptoms were typical.
Say goodbye. Let's take a close-up of a kiss. Wait.
Lauren was different from birth. She never smiled. That was really hard. The child never went through that, stage of smiling and cooing and laughing that maybe 3 or 4 months old do, and she just never did. And she was so different from what I expected a child to be, or compared to her older sister. None of the other children were like this at all.
A disturbing symptom is their attitude to suffering. Cruelty to animals inflicted without remorse is one of the clearest indicators of violence in later life.
Cody doesn't seem to care that he's done it. When he killed the dog, it was my mom's dog, we were babysitting, and we get to the airport and he's yelling out the window, "Nanny, I killed your dog, I killed your dog." And he was just he thought that was the greatest. I don't know, he didn't have any remorse at all.
This little boy from a very young age showed a lot of particularly disturbing behavior. He was extremely aggressive to peers early on, and he is to siblings now constantly, to the point where his mother has been told to watch him when he's home all of the time when he's with his siblings. I'm concerned that he might hurt his siblings.
Get out of their room, Cody. Cody? Out. Get out. You're not allowed in here. Yes, you are in here. Get out of here, please. You're not supposed to be in here. Do you remember why?
Yeah.
With his sisters, he'll just hit them for no reason. And if they do anything, the slightest thing, he gets really upset. They go in his room, he has a tendency to just grab him by the hair, the arm, the leg, and drag him out. Come on. They do raspberries with their tongue, and he didn't like that, and so he just backhanded her, just slapped her right across the face. Brina said that one day he could blow up and kill one of my daughters out of just anger and not even think twice about it.
Baby alert! Baby alert!
Okay, hold on, Code. Don't touch her. Don't touch her.
By school age, Lauren's behavior was leading her into trouble.
There was a time that Lauren took a little tile tool to school when she was about 4 years old. And this tile tool, you could put a piece of tile in it and it could cut the tile. You can also put a finger in it, and I suppose it could slice a finger. She was showing kids this tool, and I guess it scared the school, because I think she had asked a child to go ahead, stick your finger in it.
I was called several times by the school because they were concerned about her level of violence and aggression in the classroom.
Lauren was forever in trouble. Her mother's attempt to correct her seemed simply to fuel her defiance and her sense of menace.
I used to think Lauren was going to kill me in my sleep. Because Lauren, she would do whatever her impulses told her. And if I made her mad, I was the one reprimanding her. You know, I was the one who was going to get in trouble for it. And I just used to think that she would kill me. It's a really sad thing for a mother to say.
Do you have your lunch by the door?
No!
Excuse me. Eye contact.
Yes.
Lauren, eye contact.
Yes, I'm ready.
Do you have your lunch by the door?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is where I grew up, right here, and that's where we stole the car from. This is where I'd leave that apartment and get into a lot of trouble and sell drugs, and we deal our marijuana and deal our speed.
Danny's ingrained and infant delinquency wasn't diagnosed. His mother hadn't heard of attention deficit disorder. When he started stealing at 3, boys, she thought, will be boys.
I said, "What's under your shirt?" And he said, "Oh, it's a secret." And I said, "Well, I have to see the secret." And we lifted his shirt, and he had stolen from his little friend about 6 little cars. And I said, "You can't take these." And he said, "Yes, I can. I had them hidden."
Attention deficit disorder children are different than the ordinary child in that the patterns that they get into of lying and stealing are pervasive. They're not transient. They last for longer than 6 months or a year.
Danny came from a well-off and stable family. He had no need to steal. But for him, stealing and the habit of lying became both casual and compulsive. Mischief was maturing into delinquency.
He constantly lied. He was the greatest. And he was very convincing and very good at it. They become quite skilled at lying and the predicaments that they had gotten into and the excuses of why they weren't where they were supposed to be or why they had stolen a car or whatever the situation was. He was very gifted at that.
Children like Lauren and Cody have a brain abnormality consistently found in those who go on to a criminal career. Good or bad social environment will only have some effect. This basic biological defect is central to the potential for crime.
No, he says.
You're hot? You're hot? Don't climb up that way. Don't do it that way.
Although they're hyperactive, these children actually suffer from a low level of arousal in a part of the brain called the frontal cortex. Arousal levels can be monitored and measured by the amount of electrical activity in the brain. Scientists have found that one wave pattern, the theta waves, is invariably different in children at risk of criminal behavior. When you're drowsy, the theta waves are slow and large. When you're concentrating, the waves are faster and focused. The at-risk, overactive children have, paradoxically, an abnormal degree of the drowsy pattern. One British study by Adrian Raine measured arousal levels in young boys before any had committed an offence.
The critical question, basically, is can those criminals be identified 9 years earlier on the basis of the measures of arousal? And the answer is yes, they can. We find that the criminals have an excess of theta activity here. And theta activity is slow wave EEG. It measures an under-aroused individual. So essentially, the 3 measures of arousal were all predicting to who becomes criminal 9 years later.
What causes low arousal in children? Very often brain damage results from problems at birth. Cody suffered severe oxygen deprivation when he was born. His deep behavioral disorder is matched by a classic pattern of low arousal. But why should low arousal predispose a child to crime? The answer lies in how the brain works. The frontal cortex regulates the ability to plan and organize behavior. It also controls our emotional reactions. In normal people, important messages from the nerves activate the frontal cortex, which analyzes them and then tells the limbic system how to react. This area generates our emotions like love, anger, and fear. The limbic system is the seat of our instinctive, irrational, or impulsive behavior. With low arousal, internal communication is more sluggish, so the incoming messages need to be far more sensational than normal to get through to the frontal cortex. This means the cortex is slower to activate the limbic system, which in turn fails to generate normal feelings of fear.
Low arousal indexes lack of fear. For example, one thing that stops most of us from committing antisocial acts is that we are frightened about the consequences of committing antisocial acts. Probably because we've been punished for doing antisocial things as children, and we remember the consequences of our actions.
I know you can.
No more flips.
Why?
Because I said so.
If she did something of which she was told not to do, if she broke something, there was no guilt or fear. Fear was the biggest thing. She would not be scared of anything.
Discipline meant nothing to Danny, because by the age of 10 he was literally fearless. He would stay out all night, using and selling drugs and stealing to buy more of them.
I started selling the marijuana, and which hooked me onto cocaine, and then hooked me onto crystal meth, speed. And when I was selling that, that's when I got caught a couple times by other police officers in other places, hanging out with friends, selling on the streets.
We found no matter what the discipline was or the consequences for his misbehavior, it was never enough. We couldn't punish him enough. He was at that point becoming bigger and stronger than I was anyway, and he could walk out the door. I mean, he knew how to ride the bus system. He could steal money. He could take my jewelry. He could sell it. He could do anything he wanted. There was no stopping him. We were really at a loss for answers.
It may seem contradictory that the overactive child has an underactive brain. But an active frontal cortex is essential to the ability to concentrate. Their low brain arousal means that hyperactive children can't focus their attention. They're always on the move.
The primary consequences of not being able to focus attention in school are very, very bright children fall way behind in school. They're unable to do any academic work at the level that they should be able to do it given their IQs. As they fall further behind, they develop a very low self-esteem and low self-image. They feel that they're wrong or bad very often.
Not behaving to teachers, not conducting by the rules, and not being able to do good in academics, such as not doing my homework and not doing the schoolwork in class. I just couldn't focus, and I just couldn't concentrate and pay attention to any of my work, which is why I acted up. It's why I couldn't focus. That made me angry and made me frustrated, and it made me act up even more.
So this leads into a whole set of negative self-perceptions for the child. And very often they make up for that by doing things, simple, effective, immediate things that make them feel good. But those things very often are not socially acceptable.
When I got into trouble, it made me feel better. I needed to feel like I was a rebel, like I was just getting into more crimes. And even when I got arrested, sometimes I would feel better about that afterwards because I felt like I did misbehave, and I got, some things I got away with, which I felt good about.
At 10 years old, Danny had a reputation as a nasty piece of work. Other children feared and avoided him. But there's another reason why low arousal can lead to extreme behavior. Those with low arousal are driven by the need for excitement. This craving for risk and adventure can either fuel a brilliant career or find fulfillment in crime.
Kids with low arousal seek out stimulation to increase their arousal levels back to normal. Now, for some adolescents, joining a gang, burglaring a house, beating somebody up might be their way of getting an arousal jag in life.
Yeah, I found it very exciting. That was the whole reason of doing it. All the crimes that I did, it was just really exciting to me. I liked the action. I liked having to get away from the cops, and I thought I was cool. I thought it was a cool thing to do.
Danny was 15 when he was sent to a juvenile correctional center for 18 months.
We were unaware of what his problem really was, other than just being a bad person, a bad kid. We didn't know what to do.
Cody and Lauren have been labeled potential criminals. But doesn't childhood deserve the presumption of innocence? Doesn't singling them out itself doom them to delinquency?
It does seem a little beyond the pale to take a child, say, in 5th grade and go out and start measuring their arousal and say, well, you're in danger of being a future criminal. That doesn't seem right to me.
If you don't label a child or don't diagnose a child, you can't get him proper treatment.
You ready, bud?
Yeah.
Treatment may indeed be possible. The few studies that have been tried all offer hope that the brain differences that tilt a child to crime can be overcome. Biology need not be destiny. Our brains need not doom us. If we really want to, we can stop a lot of crime by conquering our children's criminal potential.